White House has been rocked by reports of internal mutiny, aides literally stealing paper off Trump's desk to trick him out of nixing a trade deal. And one previous Trump employee say, well, she's not surprised because that's how Trump rolled in business, where employees say surviving required ignoring his, quote, ridiculous orders. That longtime Trump executive, Barbara Ress, writes today that she played along with him and then didn't carry out some of those orders, just like current staff. And she joins us now. She's the author of the book, All Alone on the 68th Floor, and another author joins us, Baratunde Thurston. Why are you sounding this alarm now, working for Trump as you have?
I read the article, the anonymous article, and it bothered me a little bit because I thought, what are you saying here? You do all these things. I don't see any evidence of it. All I see is crazy schemes and crazy ideas that are coming to fruition. And why not say something specific in the article? Here's what we did. It was more like, it was almost self-congratulatory. It was like, oh, look what we're saving the country behind the scenes. That bothered me a little bit.
That stuck in your craw.
Yes, it did, sort of. Yeah.
It rankled you.
Yeah, because, you know, I had put up with a lot of this. Now, granted, he may be much worse than he was when I worked for him. We were able to control him. We had a good crew. But I don't see much.
He's less controllable today?
I think probably, yeah. Yeah, I believe it.
I am struck. First of all, thank you for the piece that you wrote, Barbara, because I think Barbara reminded us so many of the things we've known about Donald Trump. The lying, the cheating, the narcissism, and the bullying. But now, as you pointed out, it's in the White House. And so one of the thoughts that I had is, you know, people who are doing the same job that you documented being done decades ago, now in a position of maximum power in the world, but not coming forward, right? Maybe they want to preserve their own power. Maybe they want to play the part of the hero. I would be happier if they didn't go anonymous, if they didn't tell Bob Woodward, if they told Paul Ryan, or if they told the House Oversight Committee. If you take some of these documents and some of these tales to the designated governmental body that's supposed to be the check on this power and that kind of resistance, what do you think, in your experience, motivates people to only in certain cases stand up to Donald Trump or to report him to construction authorities or building code authorities? Like, he's been breaking rules for a very long time with real consequences for real people for a very long time.
Well, let me say that I was not aware of any rules that were broken. I was asked to break rules, but we didn't do that. But people are very, very afraid of him. I mean, look at all the Republicans. What are they doing? Yeah. Why are they doing what they do? They're terrified of him, and they're terrified of losing their, their support and their money base. But why doesn't anyone stand up to this guy? It's amazing to me. We did regularly. There were a bunch of us that did back in the day. And I think part of the big difference I see in him is who he hires. He's got people that are sycophants that tell him you're great, and they run off and do what he says to do without question, like telling the world that he had a bigger crowd at his inauguration than Obama did. Yeah. And nobody has, these are all cowardly people, and I see Anonymous, I hate to say it, as a cowardly person.
You think that, so that's one area where you and the president actually overlap, because he also says this person's a coward.
Yeah, I do. I mean, you don't do that. You don't say, I know this, but I'm not telling you who I am, so you can't really check it out. I'm sure it's true. I'm sure everything they said was true, whereas the president says it's not. What
about the flip side? I put this to both of you, that Donald Trump does, as you say, try to punish people. They've forced a lot of people into these hush agreements, these non-disclosure agreements. That person, for all we know, may be a career civil servant who got up to a political appointee job, who doesn't want to spend years in litigation, or like Andy McCabe, risk their pension. I mean, is it too easy for us on the outside, and I ask this as a serious question, to say they should devote their life to standing up and being ready to be punished as a whistleblower? Maybe they feel they didn't sign up for that when they went to serve their country.
I didn't say that. I said they shouldn't be writing articles in the Times if they're going to do that.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't want to stand up, look, lots of people don't. Look, I don't think anyone is going to go to jail for Trump at the end of the day. I don't think anyone will, and I wouldn't, no matter what. So I don't think that's
Would you visit him if he were in a jail?
I think I had an observation on election night. It was a devastating moment for a lot of people, including myself, that one of the greatest threats to our democracy is our blind faith in it. And I think a lot of the people in these positions of attempting to restrict the president, maybe fearing consequences, are also assuming someone else is going to handle this. And a court's going to handle this. A member of Congress is going to handle this. And we all need to be handling this. I think there's just we weren't prepared for the storm that is Donald Trump. He had a public record.
I warned everyone.
You and I tried right alongside you in a different position to do the same, but now we're here. And he has nuclear codes, and he's trying to assassinate people, and babies are being kidnapped. So the consequences are real, and we have to remember that we are this democracy, I think.
Which is a fitting point to pause and reflect on. Baratunde Thurston and Barbara Rest, thank you both. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.